it's something that should be a top 3 priority of this administration.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Councilman Davis.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, we did discuss previously bringing back the cleanup days, and the reason it was abolished in the first place was that we had an epidemic of people from out of town coming to abuse the cleanup day and literally pulling up like pickup trucks and just pushing things off on the sidewalks and driving away. I do agree that we have an issue with garbage. I think it's an unenviable task for anyone to try and tackle because people are coming in all hours of the night and it's almost impossible to enforce the rules universally to charge these people. I know we've done it sometimes in the past, but I think we could probably have some more constructive discussion about enforcement methods because I honestly am not sure what we should do to go after the people who are doing this and driving away. I'm not sure I'm in favor of bringing back the cleanup day. If we can create an economic argument for it, I'd be glad to support it, but based on the history of people who were doing it before I was around, it seems like there were some challenges that we haven't yet addressed.
Thank you. Council.
It is a big problem. I for one was very happy when we did away with that once-a-year cleanup because how I remember it is all the pickers came through everybody's garbage all throughout town and they took everything apart and threw it all over the place. And it made a bigger mess than it was worth. I lived on Warren Street at the time and the entire street was filled with trash. Up and down, all over the schools. Then it was blowing all over the school property. It was a disaster. We do have once-a-year cleanup. Everyone's entitled to it. Renters have to have their landlord call. That's stipulation. Now, if that's not happening, there's no reason when we see a big pile of trash out there, if somebody doesn't see that it was tagged for pickup, they need to be fined. It's pretty simple. It's not that difficult. You know, I sent the mayor an app so that people could just use their phones and text when they saw this stuff. I'm not sure if he put it in the budget or not. He hasn't responded yet to the training. But, you know, it was a method to basically empower the community to help keep it clean. So that was one method for looking for a way to better enforce, but I agree with Councilman Davis that I was not a fan of the townwide cleanup. Everybody does have the right to have a cleanup once a year. I use it almost every year religiously because I do that once a year clean out. There's no reason people can't use that, but I will tell you the trash problem was tenfold when we had that annual cleanup, and it would take. And DPW couldn't manage it. They just couldn't manage it. Then recycling fell behind, garbage collection came behind because they were spending all their time cleaning up pickers. You know, it's not bad enough they come around and pick through our recycling every week just to go cash it in. But, you know, so I agree with Councilman Davis on that, but it is a problem. I concur to that. And creative solutions, how we can start enforcing, I think is the better option.
So.
Or just enforce. Pretty simple.
Enforcement is key. I didn't mean to cut you off, Councilwoman.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
So Councilman Lutz had just said it used to go out to bid. Vicki, is that still the case, or was that still the case prior to us removing it? It was. Okay. I'll be honest, I am in favor of the spring cleanup. Probably not. I didn't like when people picked through our garbage either, but it did allow us the 1 year. The problem that we're having in the town of Phillipsburg too is that the landlords are not calling to schedule these cleanups. So they're just putting it on the sidewalk and they're not calling the town. And I know this because I've spoken to DPW, I'm in constant contact with our clerk every single day. You know, so I believe there are some things that council can do. However, I believe, and after conferring with council, that it is an administrative function in order to bring back that procedure of the once a year cleanup. Would I be right?
That's my knee-jerk reaction, is it's administrative. We could take a deeper look into it, but I don't see anything legislative about it, so
Right.
my reaction is that's something that would be handled by whoever is dealing with the rules and regulations.
However, the landlord portion would be legislative,
That
and
stuff
would be
we
able to work
would have
that
to
in.
work through in the ordinance, correct?
Okay. And it's not all landlords, but there are various landlords that refuse to call for the schedule, or the tenants are scared to call their landlords, and I'm dealing with that right now, which, by the way, I'm going to invite council, if you'd like. We have a 90-year-old resident down on Mercer Street, and once it falls out, I would like to, people have been dumping behind his garage, and I plan on going down to clean it up, so I'd like to invite every single member of council to go down there with me. I'd like to get our hands dirty.
I did some digging on that, and I think it may be resolved.
Are you serious? Vic, you are this town superhero.
No, we'll see.
All right.
But they found it was somebody else's property.
Well, we may just have to put a cape on you. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So we will work on the garbage issue. We should find out from the mayor where he stands with regard to bringing back the once-a-year cleanup. Vic, if we could send him an email tomorrow asking him where he stands so we know for the next agenda. Does anyone else has anything else to say on garbage?
Just reading the ordinance, there is a $250 fine if they don't.
Oh, sure. Enforcement.
It is there.
Problem is, we're not enforcing it. You know, we're throwing orange stickers on some of the stuff. I just went and helped a resident clean up a mess in behind Fillmore Street because the garbage cans were kicked over. There was an old typewriter. Trash was strewn all over the place. And by the time DPW would have gotten to it, it would have been infested with bugs. So I went over and helped them clean it up because our guys are understaffed. But if it would have had lids, Mr. Minor, that wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have been all over the place. It blew all over the place because there were no lids. You know, we got to clean up the town, folks. It is bad. If you see it, pick it up. I mean, there may be some stuff legislatively we can do. We should go ahead and investigate it. We'll have to investigate it. If anybody has, just email me during the week. We'll all collaborate and try and put something, not collaborate together, because I don't want to violate OPMA, but if you have ideas, bring them forth, and we'll go through Vicky. Next up is community block grant program.
If I may ask, say something, Rich Winter and I are going over that block grant that he wrote,
Okay.
and we found some faults in that, and he's going to rewrite it,
Okay.
if you don't mind, so if we could wait till he gets that done.
Sure, we'll put it on hold. I don't want to use the word table. It's a bad word. So we're not going to say table anymore.
Wasn't this just a resolution to ask that an administrative procedure be put in place?
I think it was a little bit more than that, Councilwoman, but I at the request of Councilman Lutz, I'd like him and Council Leonard to go ahead, and then we'll bring it back before us, if that's okay. Anybody else on the panel have an issue with that?
No, just I hope that we don't lump in the community development block grant program as just this. It's a much broader program, and I think that we should continue to pursue funds through this program. I think that we should make sure we're limiting the scope of any limitation that we're doing to the loans for the downtown program.
I think the only intent of this was to create an application process, because right now there isn't one.
Right. I'm just saying we generally limit. We're just
Yeah, no,
generally
that's true.
labeling it
That's
as community development block grant block program, and we're talking about just this instantiation where we apply for these funds for this program. So I just make sure that we're differentiating it from the entirety of the CDBG.
Yeah, I don't want to take the money.
Yeah, my understanding is we're strictly requesting a procedure be put in place for
Right.
the application, because there doesn't presently have one.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and place that on wait. So the next up is special use permits. And Council Vice President, is this something you would like to start off with? Would you like me to start off with it?
I'm going to ask if you start.
Sure. So the special use permits, I was a little disheartened when I had gone through and realized that there were special use permits that unfortunately, and I know it's up to the administration, but it appears to me that it's being picked and chose for one and not the other, and I feel that it becomes a liability. So if we're chasing down one gentleman to fill out a special use permit, we should be chasing down every person for a special use permit. And because that wasn't being done, my personal feeling is that we should remove, God bless you, we should remove the ability to pick and choose by just taking out the application procedure, the special use permit procedure. Yeah, and I know that the counter argument is it's a way to generate revenue, but we're not generating revenue if we're not charging anyone to fill out for the permit. There were some other issues I had with regard to some messages that were left stating, you know, why they would hold back permits, why they would approve permits. I just didn't care for it, quite frankly. I think when this type of policy is in the wrong hands, it could be extremely dangerous and allows for discriminatory practices. So that's where I stand. Councilman Lutz?
I'm 100% behind you. For what happened this year, the last 2 years, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it.
Councilman Davis?
I'm still of the opinion that if we think that things are broken, then we should fix them, even if it's from a simplification standpoint. I need to go back and look, but I believe we overwrote the request for even like the pavilion and Walters Park as a function of this. So we just want to make sure that we do have some type of permanent process to make sure that people can use our facilities on a first come first served basis.
So that was on chapter 422. But what happens? So I'm just going to state it. So let's just say I go and I apply, and I am the first. I know. I mean, there's no way for me to tell that I'm the first, but the administration knows. And then Councilman McVeigh goes, and he's chosen because he's friends with the party who makes the choices. What happens then?
I can't speak to that hypothetical.
I can give you a real one.
I mean,
No, that's. So, I'm trying to, it's happened. That's what I'm trying to get at. It has happened. We have verifiable proof that it's happened, and unfortunately, I think the only way to rectify the situation is to remove the chapter. That's just my personal opinion, but that's why there's 5 of us. Councilwoman DiGiorno.
I understand it was put in place for 2 reasons. One was they needed a process to communicate better between the police, their staff, council involvement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do understand that intent, and I think that intent of the ordinance is a good part. However, it's kind of all gone south based on what part 2 of it was. We know there's a lot of visitors that come to town for the train excursion. So hence we had the parking ordinance and we had the special use put in place. But it hasn't been filled out for 2 years. And everything the town ended up paying for anyway, by what we can tell. So I'm not sure where we retained any revenue or saved taxpayer dollars if the town ended up paying for everything anyway. I like it as a concept to communicate and keep us all in the know. However, that's not quite working either. It took until towards the end of last year until they realized they even had to give it to council to look at, which it's clear as day. Council's the first point of contact. So again, it falls into enforcement. If we're not going to enforce things, we're only punishing one person that we're making go through this ordeal, and it just seems unfair. So I'd rather have the rules apply to everybody or nobody. So I'm okay removing it, but I do think something needs to be done to accommodate. I think there's other ways to achieve the one part of this that isn't working. So I think we could do a rewrite and make it work better, just a different way. I think, I have an idea, but in its existence, it's not being enforced, so.
Excellent. If you want to put your idea down and just get it over to Vicki, we can see what we can do. Or get it over to Council Leonard.
Yes.
Okay. Council Vice President.
Good points made by all, and I believe the two most important words came from you, Council President: discriminatory practices. I don't really need to go beyond that. It's not consistent. And the first person I think about is our clerk in the clerk's office, because when things like this get attention and phone calls come in from the liability portion of what we have going on, because calls will go up on either side, either our side or the party side, who's arguing for this is what they want out of their event and this is what we're trying to protect under what we're trying to go on here. Our clerk's office gets heavily involved. The more calls from our statewide management insurance folks that constantly call into our clerk's office, the last thing I personally want to do is characterize what we have going on here. And I have my reasons, which I'll state privately, I'm not going to state here. But I don't want to put our office in jeopardy for just trying to follow this, and because of discriminatory practices, by either purposeful, accidental, passionate, or whatever reason there is, whatever reason why someone says, no, we're not going to do this. Countless hours are spent. Think about what our office can be doing besides this, and we saw what happened this summer. So, and Councilwoman's point, the purpose of it is clear, and it's good, but it needs to be broken down. Is this a rewrite situation? Honestly, because of what happened in the past couple events, I personally would like to completely dismantle this and start from scratch. I don't want to rewrite anything that has had adverse effect on our veterans, has adverse effect on our citizens trying to do community work, and more importantly, our clerk's office. So I would recommend that. And, thank you.
So, okay, Mr. Dickey, you're back. So I have a question for you. Would you mind?
I don't have a problem.
Would you mind stepping to the podium? So I'm going to use Mr. Dickey as an example.
Council President, I do have to, as a point of order, we
Sure.
did stipulate that we're not going to welcome comments from the audience.
Oh, I'm asking him a question.
Ralph.
So, Mr. Dickey, we're discussing special use permits, and I have a question for you. You were involved in an issue where you had asked for a permit for a flag burning, was that correct?
Correct.
And the year of that?
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, which would have been 2018, or was it 2017?
17.
So 2017. And in 2017, when you applied for that permit, that was probably right after they wrote this ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you held that event?
Correct.
Okay. It's my knowledge that you had received a voicemail, which I think we've all heard, from the party who had approved that permit, correct?
Correct.
And were you or were you not threatened with the removal of the permit because of the language you chose to use during that event?
That is incorrect.
Okay. Would you mind clearing that up for me?
If you don't mind, I will elaborate. It was not that event, it was future events.
So,
Because of something that took place, was corrected, because of words that I spoke. I had later fixed my wording, and that was not forwarded back to the said individual.
sure,
Some of what I said was left out,
sure.
and the gentleman never gave me a chance to explain that, and threatened that any future special use permits by me would have to be reconsidered extreme.
Did you ever try and apply for another special use permit?
No, I have not. The second flag burning, the second flag retirement ceremony that I did was done through the help of Chief Hay and the fire department. They requested the use of the park of Walters Park so that I could conduct my flag retirement ceremony. I was not required the second time to fill out the 50 pages that you have to fill out.
But you did fill it out the first time.
The first time I had to fill out, and I had to decide how many porta potties I needed when I didn't even realize how many people were going to show up.
But that was part of the process, and that's why I'm asking. My sole point here is the phone call that you had received from the approving party that had stated because they were not happy with the verbiage that you had used.
Correct.
They had threatened to take away future permits, or had implied that they would take away future permits.
Correct, that's what was implied.
So, with that being said, and Mr. Dickey, thank you. I appreciate you. I wanted you to be on record because
I wanted to go calm down first.
I appreciate that. You can go ahead. Thank you. You can sit down. Because of that, and I wanted to go on record to prove that there are in fact discriminatory practices, and those practices took place before myself and my counterparts took office, and it had nothing to do with the sitting council. And it is because of that that I would ask this panel, I do believe that, and I can play the voicemail. I know we could all play the voicemail. I'm sure we all heard the voicemail. Oh, I'm not going to, Councilwoman. I'm not going to play the voicemail. But I do believe we should remove this special use permit because it is dangerous in the hands of individuals who have the maturity level of a 10-year-old, and that is how I feel.
Just for the records, I knew nothing about this. Just so you know.
You didn't know.
I didn't know nothing about this.
I will gladly play you the voicemail after this meeting, Councilman. We can move forward. Vicki, I would ask that we put the removal of the special use permits on the next agenda. So with that being said, the sewer subcommittee of Councilman Davis and Councilwoman DiGirolamo, these are up for discussion. Do you have, I will start off the discussion with you. Is there anything that you would like to talk about with regard to these bonds?
I think that the sewer subcommittee has made reasonable requests to assuage some concerns that we have about these bonds. We're still waiting on a response on those, and we should continue to hold these until such time we get the response that we need.
Okay, so we will wait. I do want, Councilman, you did see the emails from the administration?
You have to be more specific than that, Councilman.
Did you see the emails from the mayor?
I'm specifically referring to an email that Councilwoman DiGirolamo sent about 4 days ago with some specific concerns.
Okay, I will forward you an email that I received. Did you get that email?
No, I don't know which one you're talking about, but I'll gladly expand a little bit because I don't know that all of council's sitting here, and since we are at a meeting, we can. I did get some documentation back. I found it to be insufficient, so I asked follow-up questions, and that's what Councilman Davis is referring to.
Okay.
So if you'd like, I'll expand on it slightly as to the concerns, so everyone understands what we're talking about with these bonds. Because up until probably about 4 days ago, we were not made aware of any of this. We just received 2 bonds on the agenda, and we're told to vote on them without any information. So, but apparently the Northern Bureau of Water Compliance and Enforcement of the New Jersey DEP was aware of it on February 28th. Council was not. So what we're looking for on these 2 bonds for $2.6 million total, is where I have a big concern. Because what this is detailing is this is to pay for salaries for 6 DPW workers. Now, first of all, bonding for salaries to me sounds like a very, 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 very bad idea. I made the analogy in my email. To me, that's like taking out a home equity line to go to the food store. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. if we're gonna have salaries, and I will tell you, there was no time frame. And by the way, this was a 40-year bond. 40 years on $1.8 million doesn't make a lot of sense. If we're doing it over a period of 5, maybe, so that we could buy some capital equipment to go along with it, but it makes 0 sense to me to be bonding for salaries, because you've got salaries, benefits, pensions. Those items right there, I can tell you, you're only talking about putting somebody to work for 3 or 4 years. And the taxpayers are gonna pay for it for 40? I don't feel good about that, first of all, because if you properly capitalize and you have a 5-10 year plan, you're putting this in your capital plan. To me, I understand this project has to be done, and I know that has to be done. But there's ways to plan for these projects to be done. You do them in, look at the road work. The road work's being done in phases. Certain parts of town get done. Look what Elizabethtown is doing, tearing up the roads. They're doing it in phases. Projects like this could be done in phases. Unless, and I know Councilman Davis and I have both spoken to this, we've been waiting to see an estimate on what it would cost to have an outside service come in and do this. And we haven't been provided that information yet. We were just told this is a decision I made. Those were some of the biggest concerns. And apparently, we're buying a truck this month. I assume that's an error because we haven't adopted a budget yet. And I know we didn't approve buying a camera truck last year, a video truck. So it said the purchase will be made in March 2019, but I think that was just an error because the budget just got presented to council and we haven't set a date for that hearing yet. And since November, there were several other projects that are referenced in here that I've gone through 3/4 of the budget. I haven't gotten through the entire thing, but half of those projects are not listed within the budget. So I have a concern about that as well. So that being said, Councilman Davis said a much shorter version. We've asked some more questions. We haven't gotten the answers, but you're all up to speed that this isn't, we're buying a bunch of equipment and hiring a firm to come in. We're paying for salaries and pensions and various other costs. And to me, that just doesn't make much sense to bond. It's not an appropriate use of bonds, in my opinion. That's it. That's all. I think that's probably enough.
So when the employment's up after 3 years and they're let go from the town of Phillipsburg, if I heard you correctly, the taxpayers are still paying for 4 years. And we have 6 people unemployed.
Yeah. I don't know if it would only take 3 years, 5 years, but you know, I can tell you that 1.8 million on 6 people that are paid full-time, getting salary, benefits, and pensions, it will add up pretty fast. It will add up pretty fast.
Councilwoman, did you receive an opinion from bond counsel?
No.
You did not receive an opinion from bond counsel regarding this situation?
An opinion, no. No.
Okay. All right.
I did ask a question if it was legal, because I didn't feel it was even legal to be bonding for salaries. The answer I got was, in unusual circumstances, you can find a way to do it, but it's not usual. So, to me, that's a red flag, no.
Were these employees already hired?
I have no idea. No, we haven't, no, we have not approved any new positions through council.
Well, they did hire 5 new DPW guys, and they were going, well, last month, whatever it was, they started February 1st, I think.
Right.
So they were supposed to take 3 of the more seasoned guys and put them on this job. That was the initial plan.
We hired 5 people?
They hired 5?
Oh.
They hired 5, I thought they had.
But did we budget for those 5? And if we didn't budget for those 5, my question is, we didn't even approve these bond ordinances. They were just thrown on there. So you're
Well,
telling
they
me,
still need these gentlemen, whether they do this job or not.
oh, I don't disagree. I support the DPW wholeheartedly. It's the process and the disrespect for the process I have an issue with.
Or are the employees that were hired within the bounds of the temporary budget that we approved?
How could they be?
I would,
Did we have 5 people leave?
we've had people leave over the time and they have not replaced these.
Oh, okay. That's it.
Okay, all right.
But we,
I think we should have CFO Merlo clarify. I'd like to know more.
yes, and I have some other notes from one of the previous meetings I can share.
Thank you.
And I can assure you, the sewer subcommittee is working diligently to get all these questions answered as well before we come back with an informed report for the rest of council.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman DeGirolamo, are you done?
All done.
Yes, Council Vice President.
Excuse me. Just to clarify, you mentioned the 3 seasonal. Did they trans?
I'm sorry, I said seasonal. I didn't, they were 3 of the seasoned workers, 3 seasoned workers,
All right, I
not
want to make
seasonal
sure if they were
workers.
seasonal, if they transitioned into a full-time job, which would.
Well, they did take some from Queen Community stuff as well.
But then what's in our budget for 5 employees?
We're going to have to discuss this during the budget hearing because I
There's 5
am,
employees.
that's 11 more employees, yes?
No. The ones they hired in February, not in addition. Well, these 6, I don't know what that's.
So that's added.
I think
Because
we're
initially they-
speculating right now.
Yeah, let's wait till the budget hearings.
Right, it was only supposed to be 2, 1 driving the truck and then 2 working up with the scope and the lines. Was
So-
scoped in that meeting.
Okay, what we're going to do is, we set up the budget hearings this year, we're going to send letters to the department heads, because I'd like specific department heads here that evening to discuss their budget, because there may be certain requests from council with regard to trimming the budget. When we go to get to the budget hearings, I'll make my comment on that. Does anybody else have any comments with regard to the bond ordinances after the sewer subcommittee had just provided us with an update? Do you have anything, Councilman?
No.
Okay. We can go ahead and move forward to the status of the municipal complex. I would ask that we hold off as well on this one. We have a bond already to be voted upon at the next council meeting, and I have a subcommittee meeting with everyone on Monday evening before council, before the meeting. Is everyone comfortable with that? Councilman Davis?
The subcommittee consists of
Chief of Police, Chief of the Fire Department, Councilman McVeigh, Councilman Lutz. Councilman McVeigh is unable to attend Monday evening, so I will attend in his presence, in his absence.
Bob
Merlo, Ms. Kleiner,
And the union.
Unions.
and the unions.
Understood. Just a comment, I just to reiterate my position. I'm not a fan of passing any bond ordinance until we have a complete plan in totality, because I think that passing a bond ordinance without the requisite plans and details in place is premature. So I hope that we will hold off on any bond ordinance until such time that we have compared the plans in place with bids in hand to pass the bond ordinance.
Noted.